Frank Bonada here for LowKick MMA. Joining me today is UFC middleweight Cody Brundage. Cody, how's it going, man?
It's great, man. I'm excited. I got another fight right when I wanted in July. So, I'm happy for that.
Before we get into that one, how does it feel to finally have a UFC win under your belt?
It feels really good. It wasn't my best performance, but I'm never going to complain about a win. And to get a win, especially a first round finish off a fight that I feel like I didn't necessarily perform that well is it's encouraging. And I feel like it to me, it proves a lot that, even if it's not your best day in the office, to win at the highest level speaks a lot to my talent and my ability. So I just got to figure out how to put it together now.
100%. Well, I'm not sure if you recall, but we spoke before that fight, and you essentially laid out exactly how it would play out. You'd have to endure that early storm from Delcher, and I think you maybe said that you come in the second or third round, but yeah, you really did weather that early blitz, didn't you? And then sort of capitalize on him overextending.
Yeah, for sure. I knew he was going to come hard. Every fight he comes super hard. I thought that I would be a little bit more, it would be more of a collision, I think. But he just rocked me a little bit early. So I had to kind of get my wits about me and survive a little bit. But I felt like even had I not finished that the way I did, I still think, like I told you, like, I don't know how much he would have had left. I think his weakest part of his game is his cardio, and he expended a lot of energy trying to finish me. So I'm not sure how much he would have had left second and third, and I felt pretty fresh. So I still like my chances going into 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm. Got it. You've got a new opponent now, as you mentioned, Tresean Gore, the TUF 29 finalist. I think, again, last time when we spoke, you said you were hoping for one of the guys from TUF. I think maybe Brian Battle, because of course you've got the history with him. But yeah, you've got the fight with Gore. What do you make of him? Obviously, he's had that one fight already in the UFC.
I think he's super young. And not necessarily like we're the same age, but just inexperience. He started fighting 3 years before I started fighting as an amateur, but then he's only had 4 pro fights. I guess 6 if you count his exhibitions on TUF, but just not a lot of experience, which I like. I don't have a ton of experience, so he's probably one of the few guys on the roster that has less than me. I think his quality of competition hasn't been very good. I don't think that necessarily means he's not good. I think he's good. I think he's explosive. But I just don't think he's been in there with guys that can really push him and challenge him. And it's hard to kind of learn how to do that on the fly. You saw that in the Battle fight. I think he was probably a better, more dangerous fighter than Battle. But Battle just kind of took it to him. He refused to be bullied. He kept up high volume. And towards the end, he really kind of poured it on, I felt like. So, yeah, I just think it's a lot of inexperience and a lot of no experience against really, really talented guys. I don't know. I think some of the stuff he says is corny. Like, I'm going to be not that you should have confidence. I'm all for having confidence, but I think there needs to be a level of respect for the sport and the people that are there. And to come in and be like, I'm going to be a 2-weight world champion before you even have your UFC debut, I think is disrespectful to everyone in the company. So I think that's a little corny, but whatever, that's just shtick. We're actually from the same state. We're both from South Carolina. So that's kind of an interesting storyline. There's not many of us. So that's kind of interesting. I've actually known of him for a while, just growing up in that area. And, he's from actually where my grandparents are from. So I kind of have like an idea of him a little bit. So yeah, I mean, like I said, talented guy, obviously got pop in his hands, just like most 85ers do. And he's dangerous, but I like the matchup a lot. I think it's a super similar fight to Dolce, except for I felt like Dolce was okay with getting tired, so he would pour it on. Whereas I think Tresean is scared to get tired, and that's why his volume is so low.
Got it. Do you think it's a bit of a case of him just simply coming to the UFC too early on in his career? Like, could you imagine he would be a more well-rounded, a more dangerous threat if this matchup was made in, say, like 2 years' time? Obviously, you'd be more well-rounded as well at that point. But
yeah, like I said, I think he's got a lot of skills. I think he has better grappling than people give him credit for. I think the expectation is I'm going to go in there and out grapple him fairly easily. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. You know, I think I have really good grappling, but I think he is better than people are giving him credit for. I just think that he doesn't have great pace. And I feel like one of the best things I can do is like I have a motor and I can go and I have a good chin. So like you put those things together with the wrestling and all that, like it's a grind to fight me. And I don't know if he's been in those fights. You know, he hasn't had to deal with those type of fights because just the competition he's been fighting. So if you're not used to doing that, it's hard to learn on the fly. Like I said, I think he has the skills. I think there's people in the UFC that he could definitely beat, you know. He's got one shot knockout power. And he's athletic and he trains at a good gym. So all those things together, you know, would it be a better fight down the road? Of course, you know, we're both young and early in our career, but I like it where it is now. You know, I like I said, I like my matchup against any of those tough guys. I think that we're all super similar in terms of experience, and I think that's a huge factor. And I like that we have those guys on the roster so that I'm not fighting a 30 fight vet. You know, I think it's good to have the lower fight guys. But yeah, you figure it out. It's a lot different. You know, I figured it out against another regional guy who also is early in his career. I haven't had to fight that vet yet, but the UFC is just a different beast. You know, every fight is your toughest regional fight that you would ever have. And I don't necessarily think Tresean was taking tough regional fights. So you put those things together, you know, it's like I'm jumping multiple levels of competition.
Is there a veteran fight out there that you would like? Obviously, you want to test yourself against similar skill level, but you know, sometimes you have the really experienced guys, but maybe they're entering the twilight of their career, so they're not quite able to compete with the best of the division, so they're going to fight the up and comers.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I wouldn't mind fighting Sam Alvey. I wouldn't mind fighting Eric Anders. I wouldn't mind fighting Gerald Mershart. Any of those guys, I would consider them vets. They've been in the UFC a long time. They've proven a lot. They've done some really big things in the sport. I'm a fan of most of those guys, but yeah, I would enjoy fighting any of them. I would like that matchup. Yeah, so there are some for sure.
So I suppose you kind of alluded to it, but in terms of like how you actually see the fight playing out, your sort of prediction, is it like letting him burn himself out early on and then capitalizing once again, similar to how you did against Doucher?
Hopefully not like how I did against Doucher. I just think, yeah, it's like my pace. I think being the bully, like not being on the back foot. You know, even in that fight with Dolce, like I was taking a lot of damage, but for the most part, I was aggressively trying to grapple. I was more on the front foot. There were obviously exchanges where I was on the back foot, but just trying to live on the front foot. And I think that's for every fight. You know, I'm a really good grappler. I'm a really good wrestler. I have good pace. I have a good chin. I just need to be the bully more. You know, I think Tresean goes into fights and people are really nervous about his knockout power. And you can see that in the fight. You know, they live on the cage. And that's not me. You know, I need to be in the middle. And if there is going to be a collision, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with colliding and you know, meeting in the middle in the pocket. But yeah, I see it going similar, man. I think my pace is hard for a lot of 85ers, especially 85ers that don't have that pace. You know, like he against Battle, I feel like was throwing like maybe 15 shots a round. And I just don't feel like that's going to get it done against someone like me who is super well-rounded and can also push a hard pace and make you fight it at my pace. Kind of similar to how Battle did. I just feel like I have way more power than Battle too. I don't feel like Battle has that ability to turn off the light. And I fought him. So I'm not saying that like just from watching. I fought the guy. I felt his power. He's a very good fighter. He just doesn't have that knockout power. I can put your lights out in one shot for sure. I've done it. So I just feel like if you play that game with me, it's a completely different thing with Battle. I think he didn't respect Battle's power, so he was able to put Battle on the back foot. And he wasn't worried when he got hit. I think it's going to be completely different with me. But yeah, I see it going similar. You know, I feel like my pace will break him second, third, submission, knockout. But I feel like I find the finish for sure.
Got it. Your teammates with Dustin Jacoby, right?
That's my dude.
Yeah. So he's got a fight. Is it the week after or week prior?
Yeah. So we switched. Last time he was the week before me, and I went out there and cornered him. And then he came out and cornered me. And then this time he'll come out and corner me. And then I'll go out to Long Island and corner him. So yeah, he's been in my corner pretty much all my pro fights since I've been at Factory X. And then I've been in his corner for the last 4 or 5 fights. So
awesome.
We got a good thing going.
How does it sort of help your preparation and everything, you know, having your training camps essentially almost in sync with each other?
Oh, it's really good. We're pushing each other super hard. He's a world-class striker, one of the best strikers in the world in the UFC for sure. And I'm a really good wrestler. So those two things, like, we complement each other. I learn a ton from him. And then just the confidence to know, I'm going with a top 15 205er every day. It makes fight night feel easy when those are your sparring rounds and those are your training sessions. It's like, I'm not going against a Dustin Jacoby. No knock on Tresean Gore. I think he's a good fighter. He's not even in the same hemisphere as a Dustin Jacoby or an Anthony Smith or guys like that. And those are the guys that I'm getting rounds with. Those are the guys that I'm training with. And so I feel like I feel the level every day of what it's going to be, and then that gives me a lot of confidence moving forward for sure.
I always like to ask guys, especially in gyms in the US, because we don't have as much exposure to them over here in the UK, but obviously Factory X is a top elite gym. What guys in there, are there any sort of up and coming guys that maybe the general MMA fan base wouldn't know about, but it's worth keeping an eye on?
Yeah, for sure. There's a kid, he's a 170 pounder. His name's Harris Talunzik. He's actually fighting this week on LFA. He's 4-0 right now. He's fighting a 6-0 prospect. That kid will be in the UFC within a year from now, I would say, if not sooner. He's a super talented wrestler, super strong, super tough kid. There's another kid on our team named Jacoby Jones. He's going to be fighting also this week. Another super talented wrestler, super young, but just works his ass off. Both those guys, I think, will be in the UFC. And then we have a bunch of other kids too. Like there's a kid at our gym, a 55er named Markel Medeiros, one of the best strikers I've ever seen. He's got a baby on the way, so he's going to take a little break, but I guarantee you'll see that kid on the big stage. And then we have some guys that like have been around for a little bit that are just waiting on their shot. Those guys, the ones I just named, are all prospects coming up, but we got guys like Austin Jones, who are like 14 and 7, I think, but on like a 4-fight win streak. And, I wouldn't be surprised if those guys get an opportunity as well. So that's the thing, we're getting pushed by UFC guys every day, but there's guys outside the UFC that are pushing us just as hard. They're hungry. They want to beat you. And it's competition is real at our gym. It's not like, oh, you're my buddy and we'll see how, like, you're trying to beat every person you go against, and you love them afterwards. They're your family, but in the heat of the moment, you're like, I want to whoop your ass. So I think that's a super positive thing we have, and a really good thing to have so many talented people on our team. And I feel lucky for that, because I feel super prepared when it's time to go fight.
100%. Just 2 more questions then till we call it a day. First of all, how many times are you hoping to fight this year? Obviously, this is coming up in July. How many more times?
I'm hoping 1 or 2 more times. My goal at the beginning of the year is I wanted to go 3-0, and I wanted to win a couple performance bonuses. So I'm 1-0. I got 1 performance bonus, so I want to go get another one, obviously, and I want to go undefeated this year. But I would, if I go take care of Tresean quick, I feel like I could get 2 fights in 5 months. But I wouldn't be upset if I only got 3 either. So 3 or 4 would be good, and then hopefully next year, same thing, 3 or 4. If I can crank 3 or 4 out a year, I'll be happy with that.
Awesome. And then the main event of the card that you're featured on has 2 lightweight contenders competing, RDA and Rafael Fiziev. I just wanted to get your prediction for how that one plays out.
I think Fiziev is going to win the early rounds. And then it's just going to be a question how fast he fades. I don't necessarily think he has a great gas tank. I think he's a super, super talented fighter. I just think RDA can go forever. He's got a great gas tank. He's got great grappling. He's a big step up, not just in competition for Fiziev, but just in style. Fiziev's never really fought a guy that's going to try to take him down and grapple him and beat him up on the ground like RDA will. So I think RDA will win by decision. I think Fiziev will definitely win a few rounds and he'll have his moments. But I think it's going to be a different kind of fight, but I think it's a similar setup to Chikadze, Giga stepping up and fighting Cater in terms of like the competition, the big step in competition. I think it's almost similar to that. RDA's been in those 5-round wars. He's been in serious fights, and Fiziev has too, but just never at that level. So I think it'll be a great fight. I think it'll be a good fight. Fiziev will probably win early rounds, have some moments late, but I think RDA gets it done for sure.
Awesome. Well, Cody, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it as always. If there's any sponsors or you want to plug your social media and whatnot, feel free.
Yeah, I just want to shout out, my gym, obviously Factory X, and my management, Iridium Sports Agency. I feel like they're the best in the game, obviously. And then, my Instagram is Cody_Brundage_, and then my Twitter is just Cody Brundage 185. You can keep up with all my fight camp activities on there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cody, and best of luck in the upcoming fight.
Yeah, thanks so much, man.
Make sure to subscribe to the LowKick MMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.